Hi all, Shane here at LongLast67. Just doing a follow-up video, so you'll recognise this chap from the P-Dot Camo tutorial. And so in this little tutorial we're going to be covering how to paint German web equipment or webbing equipment, such as their trenching tools and what have you, and how to do the webbing. I've done a little bit of work on this figure already, but it's not going to affect this tutorial. I've just given him his armband, his French flash, because the Charlemagne division or Storm Battalion was French volunteers. Painted up his bandage and painted in the epaulets on his uniform. So before we get properly into this, I'm going to answer a couple of questions. Russell Goslin sent me a question asking about how I film, what's my setup for filming videos like this. Well, firstly, how you keeping, Russell? I hope you're doing well, bud, and I'll try to answer this the best I can. So, I only have quite a small camera. I only have, actually I thought it was a Lumix. I have a Panasonic DMC FX01, so it's quite an old camera now. It's still going pretty well. There's only like a fixed zoom, so once you focus in, I have to kind of stay that way. And I just have a small, about €10, €15 tripod that's about maybe 9-10 inches tall. And all I do is I just set it up on the side of my table. Of course, I have to orientate it in such a way, so I'm a left-handed model. I'm a left-hander, so I'll always make sure my camera is somewhat pivoted to the right, so my hand doesn't interfere or don't bump the camera. So if I have it on my left side, so keep that in mind if you do go for this way. It's a very simple way. Some guys will use like a tripod over their shoulder, which also works pretty well, especially if your camera has an adaptive zoom. Though even with the adaptive zooms, I'll be kind of careful, especially if you can't see what you're filming. Automatic zoom has a tendency it'll pick out a random focal point and it might go out of focus. So the best thing to do is actually just manually focus on one thing and then just film away, because then you don't have to worry about the auto zoom picking up something else in the foreground, if you will, and zooming in on that or focusing in on that. So that's quite a quick thing. So all it is just small. I have quite a small camera, doesn't take up a lot of space on my worktop, and I just put it to one side where I can get close to the subject, which in this case is him, and I can work around them. I'm still getting used to it. I'm not really the best authority at this, even though I did study film for 3 years. But I still kind of I don't go as technical as I could with this if I wished. But I like keeping it simple. That's one thing I like about my one of the principles I like of my channel, is to kind of keep it simple, keep it accessible. So I find this way works. I just have to, the only thing I have to keep in mind is how I move the model. So sorry, okay, I went off a bit of a tangent there. So Russell, I hope that is of some help to you. And if you need other questions, please just ask. And I'm sure the other lads too have their own way of doing things, so probably no harm in asking them as well. You might find a way that suits you better. Then there's a quick shout out to Carlos Mendez. There's a big congratulations to him, because he entered into, I think it was his first competition, and he came home with some medals. And so just well done to you, my friend. Well deserved, and just keep up the wonderful work. And just to answer, and a kind of shout out to Justin. I think it's Borges, I believe. Sorry if I mispronounced your surname. But yeah, he was just talking about the way Warlord's releasing Berlin teams, or the Fall of Berlin teams, German sets. And yeah, I'm totally with you there, buddy. I'm going to be doing a series, because I'm very interested in the Fall of Berlin, kind of the apocalyptic end of the war. So I'm going to be doing a couple of videos showcasing the Charlemagne boys when they're finished. There's one more guy to paint up after him. I'm also going to be doing the last levy, which is the militia forces, and the guys that's pressed into the end, which for anyone who doesn't know these sets, I'm just explaining. And then I'll be doing the Kriegsmarine when they come out, and I might be doing a few other kind of team stuff, just to kind of tie in, because it's a very interesting modelling and gaming subject. So quick kind of tangent aside, we'll get to the tutorial. So when you're painting equipment, reference is always important, and having good reference isn't as difficult as it might be once, and won't be expensive as it was once. And the reason for that is simple: the internet. So if you have a tablet or whatever, or a screen on your table, just Google search the equipment. So, you know, German World War II bird bag, German World War II salt bomb, entrenching tool, whatever, and it just gives you something to work with. In this case, I use Osprey books, because they also only have a colour plate with the web gear, and it's just a good place to kind of to refer to. These can be a little bit expensive if you buy them in the high street, but if you go online or buy them directly, you will save a few euros, and I would recommend the Osprey reference material, because they're not too intense in the sense that they're geared almost as introductory material for people who know a small bit but want to know more. So it's not going to drop you in the deep end. So we'll begin doing the leather pieces. That's going to be his boots, which I've already painted in Panzer Grey, and we'll start doing his webbing, the Y straps, this object here, which is the spare parts for the machine gun. I always thought it was the sight box, but apparently it's actually the spare parts, and the leather on the entrenching tool. So we're going to take German field grey, German grey, should I say, model colour 70.995, and we should get to cracking. I'm also going to be doing a few more painting tutorials on various different German camouflages. The next one's probably going to be Splinter Cam, found on the earlier pattern smocks that were used by both Wehrmacht and SS. And I'll also be doing Luftwaffe Pacific jump smock camo patterns that are actually quite challenging. So I tend to work in this scale, even though I do 35 scale figures. It's just I find it a little bit more convenient for tutorials, because it's just nice and quick, and it is no different. The way of painting these is no different to painting a 35 scale model. Besides, I kind of prefer working on these because they over-exaggerate many of the details, as in the definition, and just gives you something to work on. So we're just going to block in the belt, Panzer Grey, the Y straps, which is the suspenders here, and we're also going to do the entrenching tool, which I'm sure you all know what I'm doing. And I'm using, just also answering a question that Russell was asking, what brushes do I use? Well, I tend to use the same type brush for 1:54 scale, which is this scale, 28mm. So anything from 1:54 right up to 35th, I tend to use a number 4 round brush for all my kind of major blocking work. I tend to use a long bristled 0 for some fine detail, and then a double 0 for very, very small work. And those 3 brushes I find are pretty good for most situations. Now, you don't necessarily need to have those type of brushes, because you'll kind of learn as you go, or you'll learn to work with what you have as well. Like, so there's no real definite. I think it's a number of 3 and a 4 round brushes with a fine tip is always a good place to start. And then if you find that it's a little bit too awkward, or you don't have the control you would like with it, you can always just trade down to a finer point. So yeah, your brushes do tend to be important if you're into your figure painting, obviously. But you can get good brushes for relatively good prices if you go into your art shops too. You know, you don't have to buy expensive brushes. Now I started using Winsor Newton Cotmans, which are synthetic brushes. I really like them. They are a little bit expensive, but I do notice that you get a very, very long lifespan with them. The thing about cheap brushes is that They're not the worst. No, the brush that's only like $2 or $3, or anything between $2 to $3 or €2 to €3. You can get fairly alright brushes for that price, but they will not last you more than maybe 2 weeks of use. Most time only a couple of days of hard use, and you'll notice that the bristles begin to deteriorate. So one thing, if you're going to kind of go down that route and kind of buy more reasonably priced brushes, so if you buy cheap, buy in bulk, because you will go through them like mad. You'll go through them like it's no one's business. So that's just kind of the trade-off when you're kind of trying to do it. You're trying to do it on a budget, and it's not like that's how I did all my work for years as well. I just would buy a decent cheap brush, and you can get them, because often you're paying for the not just the quality of the brush, but you're also paying for the name, like in most consumer products. So sometimes you can find decent brushes for pretty good prices. So that's fine. As you can see now, I'm after putting in his Y straps. It's not, for some reason his left shoulder isn't too defined where the strap is, so I tried to guess where the hell it went. But that's not to worry. It looks very straight now, but we're going to come back with German Camo Brown and highlight it back up. So now we're waiting that to dry. We'll do his bread bag, which is this object here underneath his canteen. Of course I put all my paints away being a genius and all. I'll be right back because I don't want to waste this video. Back. Okay, we're back, so I actually got the paints down. So we're going to do the bread bag, and when we take in German Field Grey, model colour 70.830. So you can see it's not too difficult. Just going to take your... The thing about doing equipment is it's always just best to take your time, because normally when you're doing the equipment you've painted in the uniform. So it doesn't hurt just to slow down a little bit, so you don't get you don't damage the paint underneath, you don't get it, contaminate painting with the uniform and have to do repair work, because that would suck. Especially too, like when you just spent the last hour doing their camo or their whatever, like. There you go, bread bag's in. Now we're going to do the body of the canteen and the entrenching tool. I'm just going to take model colour, again, Vallejo, flat brown, 70.984. Again, if you don't have these colours, you just use approximations, like, you know what I mean, like, so if you're using Citadels, you could always kind of see the colours here and try to match them. Okay. Let's paint in his canteen. I leave a small bit of the black showing because I ran out of wash, so I don't have anything to shade this with. So I'm going to actually probably just make up my own little shade in a few minutes. So I just watering down some paint. Also going to do the base of the entrenching tool. Which is actually the old pattern entrenching tools. So you can see it's very quick. It's not intensive. Then we're going to start laying down the base for the silt bomb, which is the quarter shelter or bedroll. Can be used in many different ways. If you put four of them together and pin them together, you get a tent. You can also use it as an improvised camouflage smock. You often used to see a lot of German soldiers draping their silt bombs over their uniforms if they were not issued with if they weren't issued with silt bombs, or issued with camouflage smocks, should I say. So again, just working this in, keeping the black on the two retaining straps and the shadows either side of it, just so it saves us a little bit of time. Again, it is a 35th scale model. There'll be more detail on them retaining straps, such as the bolts and what have you, so you can go in and do more detail. But that'll probably be for a later video when I do it on a 35th scale model. It's just I kind of prefer painting up these in 35ths. It's much quicker. But so any of the lads who do 35 scale, all these techniques still apply, so don't worry, there isn't that much of a difference, because the detail is just as legible. Okay, just building that up. Then we're going to do the camouflage scheme, the splinter camouflage scheme when that dries, which is always fun. Splinter cam with the German stuff is a little bit more tricky than some people find P-dot difficult, but the splinter is actually the most tricky because it's a hard edge camouflage. You really have to slow things down to get that right. So we'll do that later on in a different vid. Also, now since I'm here and got a little bit of brown, I'm going to just paint a bit of the stock of the MG42 machine gun. Kind of the GPMG of the German army. Okay, and then I'm going to start blocking in the silvers, or the metallics. So it's going to be the mess cup of the canteen. Some of these were painted green and sand colours, but from a lot of the examples and surviving examples I've found, they tend to weather quite severely, and I've also seen coloured photographs of them just in their aluminium, their bare aluminium finish. So I'm just going to take model colour or model air, aluminium. It's a very intense colour, but I'm going to tone it down once I put it on with a wash of null oil, just to take the sheen off it. Now, if you don't want to go up that bright, just use something like oily steel or chainmail colour, but it's quite close to the original, so it also makes it pop. You can also see how I haven't switched my brushes, that this long bristle brush has more or less been up to the job for everything. And I'm also going to do it on the retaining or the reinforcing bar on the shovel. Okay. And there we have the main details. Now what's going to be done is we're going to allow this to dry a little bit, and we're going to start working on our highlights. Actually wait, I actually forgot something. I knew I'd jump in the gun. I was going to take some gunmetal and paint the frog for the bayonet, which is located here in the entrenching tool. It's just the centre part here. It's quite unusual how they're sculpted with the very early pattern entrenching tools, so it just makes them a bit different too. So I don't know if that's an inaccuracy or not, like, but it doesn't matter, like. So it's going to paint at the top of it first, kind of a metallic. Okay, and then I'm going to just give my brush a quick clean, quick wipe, and then I'm going to paint the actual scabbard just black, flat black. Maybe the satin black might be a better colour, because these do tend to have a bit of a sheen to them, as I've noticed. Just put too much paint on my brush. There we have it. We'll highlight that up then to stand out. So there we have it. So we're just going to take a little while to let this dry, and then we'll do the last part, which will be adding washes to certain elements of this model, just to bring in a bit of shade, and just do the splinter cam, and that's it. So back in a second, lads. Okay, and we're back. So it turns out I didn't run out of completely out of Argrat shirt shade, which I'm going to need to wash the silk bomb, the bread bag, and the canteen, and then all the steel parts are going to get a quick wash of null oil. I really recommend picking up a few of these products from Citadel, which is owned by GW. Relatively cheap, last a long time, and they are very, very good washes. It's probably one of the few good things that company have done in a long time. Ooh, burn! But yeah, I'm not the biggest fans of Games Workshop. Anyway, even though Warlords kind of originates from them, but no. Anyway, so I'm gonna put our wash down into our soap bomb. Just kind of just a quick covering, doesn't have to be too crazy. Wash into the bread bag again, just nice. Doesn't have to be too heavy, just enough to make the stitching and creases pop. This will also give you an idea where to paint, which is always good about this. The great thing about wash is that when the wash is used correctly, when it's just not just smattered onto the model and then left at that, it does give us a guideline because it makes all the contours pop, which is always good. Okay, I'm just going to wash my brush, and we'll put some wash down, which I think is very important on the aluminium or metal parts, but especially the aluminium parts, because well, yeah, you can see how bright the aluminium is. So just to tone it down a little bit, like, and again, like, this is accurate. I've seen photographs suggest that they were actually that shiny, which in a battlefield environment is not necessarily a good thing, because I'll catch light and draw attention possibly. Just a small bit of washovers. There you have it. Okay, we're going to allow that to dry, and then we'll do the finishing touches, and we'll call this video quits. Okay, bye bye. I'll catch you in a second. And we're back. Okay, in the home stretch now. This video is a little bit longer than I'd like it to be, but well, I can't rush all that much either. So now I'm just going to do the highlights on the leather. I'm not going to bother do on his boots because I'm going to weather them up with pigments. This is going to be done with German Camo Black Brown 822, again from Vallejo. Any colour I mention unless I say otherwise is normally just a Vallejo. They're the main paints I use. I'm a big fan of Vallejo paints. And there we go, I just bumped the camera. So, it's going to apply a small bit of this to some of the better areas. So it's subtle. So again, just going to apply it to some of the leading edges of the belt and the Y straps. Now we don't want to go in too heavy with it or become far too brown. And it just gives it a slightly different change of colour, because when leather catches light in different ways, you do notice that there's different colour intensities. You know. And I'm after knocking the camera out of focus. Ah, there we go, and we're back. So again, just going to kind of leaving the original colour show through in certain areas. And there we have it. Super hard to see, but hopefully it will come apparent. Now I am being careful not to go too heavy. And it looks like this video is going to be over 28 minutes or 23 minutes, which I was hoping to avoid, but oh well. So that's kind of the leather elements done. Now we're going to I'm going to switch out my memory cards, and then we'll do the last elements of this. So we'll be back. So now to add some highlighting to the wooden handle and the canteen, I'm going to take some Vallejo model colour cork brown 70.843 and just do a little bit of highlighting. Only that. Again, I'm going to keep a minimum amount of paint on my brush, and I'm going to avoid building it up too much. And I'm just going to slowly kind of It's almost a little bit like a dry brush I'm doing. And I'm going to keep building that up until I'm happy. Again, it's going to refer to my reference material, just to get an idea. Okay, yeah, so it is a little bit more sandy. So that's why it's always good to have some reference material nearby. And I'm just going to do kind of sharp downward strokes, like almost like a dry brush, but I haven't removed any paint from my brush. In fact, I just thinned it down slightly, and I have my paint to a minimum. But I haven't dried it off, and you can see the effect I've gotten. And that's quite close to what the originals look like, if I do say so. Now, to do wood grain. Wood grain can be interesting for all the wrong reasons, because it's quite tricky to get it right, and I kind of still struggle with it. But I found this a simple way of doing it. I can just take my cork brown and do it in kind of a slash motion in one direction, and kind of leaving the original colour through a little bit. And there you have it, nice and quick. Onto it. Okay. And the bread bag is still slightly drying, so we'll move on to the camouflage pattern, the splinter cam pattern on the salt foam, or salt foam. I know I'm saying it wrong, I just haven't checked the spelling of that word in a long time. So I'm just going to have my reference material open. Now I'm going to switch to a finer brush for this, because this camo scheme is a nightmare for me. So I'm switching to a very small brush, which is a triple or 4-0 brush. So for the green element of the camo, I'm going to take surface primer red brown, because it is a red brown, which if I could find it I'd be doing alright. I'm so unorganized. So I'm going to take surface primer rough brown or red brown. It's not quite the colour, but it kind of, to me, it's rich enough, and I want it to stand out a little bit. Well, here we go. I haven't really done this camo scheme in a long time, so I tend to avoid this if I can, because it can be a little bit of an unpleasant experience trying to get it right, but we'll see what happens. So we just take a small amount onto our brush, and kind of looking for kind of jagged edges. And I kind of doesn't really look too close to it, unfortunately. I need to practice this type of camo technique a little bit more. That's why I haven't done splinter cam tutorials just yet, because it does take a little bit of practice to get the sharpness correct on them. Then for the green, I'm just going to take model color German uniform 70.920, and again, just the predominant color is the camo beige, which I'm sorry I completely forgot to mention. It's camo beige for the base color of the bedroll. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the green, which you can't even bloody see because it's been swallowed. And there you have it. It's nice and simple. It's more just the suggestion that's there. I'm not too happy with it, but we'll keep moving and not dwell. Okay, so now some of the final elements to do is the retaining straps of the bread bag. I just normally just take a little bit of cork brown. These tend to be slightly different colours depending where they're made. Sometimes they're deep green, other times they're kind of a corkish brown. I normally just take this because I want it to pop. So I just take a little bit of it. And there we have it. Okay. And reposition the light so you can actually see the work. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, and now I'm going to do the same for these two little pads up here on these white straps. They're like, it's like normally kind of a deep mustardy brown. So just going to mix a little bit of brown into the core just to darken it a little bit. Okay, that seems kind of close. I'll pick it out. Let's go. Okay. So there you have it. I'm actually just going to mix a little bit of just flat cork in and wet blend them in. Just so yeah, there we go. I need that to pop a bit better. There we have it. Okay. Now some fine elements to do here is do the same too for the canteen. I always just tend to take a little bit of cork brown and just dash in that little strap just to make it pop out a little bit. Now that, you don't have to do it that way. I've seen plenty of examples of them just with just like a leather retaining strap across. I just tend to pick out on this colour, not completely accurate, but it just helps depict that the detail is there. Now the final element to do is just the silver or the buttons on these web gear. So I'm going to take Model Air. I like using Model Air metallics for the fact that they flow incredibly well, though you do need to keep an eye on them because they flow so well you can accidentally contaminate your work by allowing it to run into something else, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to take Vallejo Model Air 71.065 steel, and I'm just going to pick out, now you can't see, there should be a small steel ring in this little area here. Some of the other model miniatures in the set have it better defined. This one doesn't, so I'm not going to try to paint it in. Just for the simple fact being is that it'll get messy and I'll just end up making a mess because I can't actually see the ring. It doesn't appear to be really defined. So we're going to turn around to the front. Sorry. And we're going to take some of the buttons of his web gear. And just pick them out. Don't be too intense with it. And this little button up here. Just take the steel and a little dab. And we will almost call this video done. And there you have it. So there is his combat equipment to a nice kind of solid standard of painting, not too intense, and I hope it should be quite easy for any other modeler to replicate. If we really wanted to, we could put the dashes that are part of the splinter can into this, but to be honest with you, it's not really definable in this scale. We will do it in a later video when we're doing the actual bigger smocks that have the little streaks or the little lines of camo beige or camo black brown. Not to worry about that, that's a different video and it'll make sense when we actually approach it. So that's this chap done. Need to do a little bit more touch-ups here and there. Do his machine gun and the belt of the machine gun. And that'll be it. So I hope you like this. For a nice and simple way of doing it. Again, takes a little bit of time, but again, once you crack your first one and you get the rhythm, you will absolutely fly through them. I just take my time so I can explain it in proper. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for many more tutorials on painting. I have a few more planned with different subjects, different German uniforms and various other allied units. Also we're going to be doing picking up Let's Build a Tank or How to Build a Tank series with a different model. It's actually going to be, I don't know if I mentioned the last video, but I'll mention it now. It's going to be with this kit that we reviewed several months back. The SD KSZ 251/7C Pioneer Wagon. Very nice kit. It's multimedia. It does have plastic, resin and metal parts, so it should make for very interesting how-to on how to weather, how to paint, how to build, how to prepare parts, and it'll be quite more. We can do more with this kit weather-wise because it's based on reality, and so we'll take up that. The Rhino, I wasn't really happy with it. Didn't really feel that it had much to show or much to teach. So that's coming up quite soon. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video proved useful. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy modelling, happy gaming, stay safe, and watch out for those buses as always. Bye bye.